going on, guys? My name is Philip Archibald, aka The Physique Builder, and today I wanted to talk to y'all about one of the most powerful anabolic hormones in the body, and also one of the ones that we are probably the most scared of, insulin. Okay, I'm going to talk about how it affects muscle building and then also how it affects fat loss. Okay, so first off, let's go ahead and start off with what insulin does. Okay, so insulin is your body's storage hormone. Okay? So you have liver glycogen, which is stored glucose. You have muscle glycogen, which is also stored glucose. Okay, so whenever you eat anything with carbs, it gets broken down into sugars. Then your body produces insulin. Your pancreas produces insulin to pull that blood sugar out of your bloodstream and store it in your glycogen stores. This is, how your body survives. It's kind of like, saving up gasoline in case it needs to go, run away from danger or something, because we were designed or evolved, whatever you believe, and to survive during periods of starvation, okay? And our body needs that explosive energy source, aka stored glucose, in case we need to go run after something and kill it to eat it. You can't really use fat as an explosive energy source, all right? Fat is a slow burning fuel, all right? So you can use it, when you're sitting there, when you're walking, but if you have to go run or, kill something or do anything that requires you to get out of breath and make a significant amount of effort, then that takes carbs. So your body wants to store those. Okay, so it stores your fast-acting energy source first. Then, once those stores are full, it stores fat. And obviously, you burn some glucose as well, if you're lifting or something. But like if you're just sitting there and you just, ate a pie, if you didn't have full glycogen stores, then your body would store those carbs that you just ate in your glycogen, and then it would store any excess energy left as fat. Okay, so this is why keto is such a big deal for people, because when you become overweight, basically that's a process of, keeping your glycogen full all the time. So then now that your glycogen is full, your body doesn't have anywhere else to store that energy, so it's just going to store it as fat. So you just keep storing fat and storing fat and storing fat. So what ketosis does is it basically causes your body to take energy out of its glycogen stores to run your brain, okay, because your brain has to run on glucose. So it takes the glucose out, runs your brain, okay, and then you can actually think. So now once your body has kind of dived into all of its glycogen stores, then it starts burning fat. So just to kind of segue away from the topic of insulin for a second, once you run out of glycogen and you start burning fat, if you're eating a ton of fat calories, your body's going to take the path of least resistance, okay? So it's going to actually burn your food instead of burning body fat. So if you're doing ketosis, especially when you first start out, try and keep your fats sort of low so you burn body fat for fuel versus just what's in your bloodstream. All right, so basically we talked about insulin, storage hormone, okay? So now what it also does that a lot of people don't think about is it stimulates protein synthesis. Now, the way it does this is post-workout, you secrete a bunch of GH and stuff like that. And when you spike your insulin by eating something with carbs or sugar, especially something fast-acting, because it's going to produce more insulin, then that insulin comes in there has this interaction with GH and you get IGF-1. What IGF-1 does is it tells your body to begin the process of rebuilding tissue. You know, so think in the wild, you know, you just ran and you chased down, I don't know, a gazelle, and you killed it, and, you know, you ate it. Well, your muscles are kind of torn up, so like any carbs that you eat are going to spike your insulin, and it's just going to instantly, you know, go to work repairing that tissue that you just tore up trying to kill and eat your food. Okay, so once you even get extremely insulin sensitive, like in cases where you're really depleted, then sometimes even lean protein can spike your insulin and make that happen. So that's just like another thing to keep in mind. So anyways, insulin post-workout, very good because it helps your body produce IGF-1, which causes you to build muscle, repair tissue. Recovery is going to be a lot better, in addition to, you know, instantly replenishing your glycogen storage. So insulin, we have storage, and we have anabolism. Okay, so these are both good things in the right circumstances, but you know, when we have somebody who eats and eats and eats a ton of sugar, they are going to get overweight. And then what is also going to happen is they're going to become insulin resistant. So what happens basically is your pancreas has these, beta cells that produce insulin in response to the blood sugar that's in your bloodstream. And over time, basically, they kind of get overwhelmed, so to speak, and they stop producing insulin. Like, they just get less sensitive. And when they stop producing insulin, after a while, they die. So now type 1 diabetics, y'all just don't have any of these cells. You don't produce insulin on your own ever. So, you know, you have to take exogenous insulin, which still does the same thing. It's just coming from an outside source. Then, you know, you have your exogenous insulin going in there, and it's going to cause your anabolism and your storage. Okay, so now type 2 diabetics, all of their cells die off at some point, then they have to go into insulin. That's kind of how that works. All right, guys, so the reason that insulin resistance usually comes along with being overweight, you know, is because, you know, people who are overweight, their glycogen is always full, so their insulin has been very, very, very active, storing and storing and storing. Okay, it's not, people who have not stored a lot of excess energy are less likely to have been producing so much insulin, so they tend to not have such bad insulin resistance. Now let's talk about how this affects muscle building. Okay, so when it comes to building muscle, you need insulin to promote anabolism and glycogen storage. Okay, so if you're insulin resistant or you're getting insulin resistant, what that means is when you eat sugars, you know, your body's not really going to do anything beneficial with them because it's not going to produce insulin or as much insulin. So you want your body to produce as much insulin as possible when you have sugar in your bloodstream. Okay, so if you're coming into a bulk and you've been eating pretty bad, all right, you're not going to grow much. You're just going to get fat because your glycogen stores are full and your insulin sensitivity is pretty much fried. So what I like to do with my clients, you know, who, and I can tell by their physiques and, you know, what they have written on their initial check-in form is, generally they tend to be very insulin resistant. So what I'll have them do is like a keto diet. Let's say they do 4,000 calories a day. That's just going to be straight protein and fat for like the first and second week. Then we start swapping some of those fat calories out with carb calories. And eventually what I end up getting them over to is, you know, super lean protein, very high carb. They were building a ton of muscle because they're very insulin sensitive now, but they're also leaning out because carbohydrates stimulate thyroid function, and that makes you burn fat as well. So, you know, same kind of process kind of applies to somebody who's losing fat. You know, we want their insulin sensitivity to be very high so they only build muscle and store glycogen whenever, you know, they eat sugars. So what we want to do with them, again, get them depleted and get them to a point where their glycogen is gone and they're burning fat for fuel. Then we can start working in carbs very slowly, because again, you know, their body is used to storing, so it's going to try and store all those carbs as fat, and it's not going to want to let go very easily of all of that saved up energy. All right, so you just really have to get in there and get after it. All right, guys, so yeah, that's pretty much the way insulin works. Like, if you're going to bulk and you've been eating like crap, take a week or two, go 0 carb, and then, you know, just basically anybody, like when you're starting out a diet, I would say go 0 carb at first, and then slowly start changing over. Not a big fan of permanent 0 carb diets, but initially in the first 2 weeks to the first month, they can be very, very, very helpful at helping to reset your insulin sensitivity and really, really optimize anabolism and glycogen storage. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Check out the link below if you want me to help you get better results. Thanks.